Which
our
is, are you
Laksh's
PMSing?
alley, not mine.
Oh, it's a good addition to the PMS. This talk.
Hello and welcome to the Rupeeting podcast. My name is Ayush. Let's do a round of names
Tejas.
again, even though it's written. Yes, thank you.
Utsav.
Tejas.
Yeah, Utsav.
Laksh and Sagar.
Hey.
Yeah. We are recording at 11:30 in the night on Saturday because someone
We have no
didn't
life.
finish.
No life.
That's why.
What's up? तू मत बोलिए.
No, but things right here.
I don't
You
have a
guys-
life, bro.
Hydration.
I lost my life on Saturday because of you, Utsav.
Arey yaar.
No. So this week's topic is a little sensitive-ish.
Something we aren't very familiar with.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah, good. That's the right way to put
experience-wise.
it forward. That we
Yeah.
aren't the authority on this. This is just the
Exactly.
research that we have done, and none of this is opinion. But
And
And none of this is medical advice as well.
yes.
Yeah.
This is not medical
Or
advice or
investment.
investment advice.
Or
At all.
investment
Yeah.
advice.
yeah, it's basically a boys' club talking on like a weekend about random nonsense.
But we have researched, like you have researched on this.
We've
Not
done
random,
thorough
bro.
research. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, we've done thorough research on the stock and the product the stock offers,
Yeah.
or the companies
So
offers.
without
We as in
further
Sagar
ado,
and Ayush.
And
and Utsav.
And
me and Tejas have analyzed the report that they've created.
yes. So without
Okay, so
further ado,
Jagsonpal Pharma.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. The suspense was killing me.
Who
But-
wants to take the floor? Who wants to
So
start?
Jagsonpal Pharma started in the 1960s as a chemist shop.
Yes.
And who would have thought that a chemist shop would become a drug maker?
I mean,
Breaking Bad.
But yeah.
what-
The plot.
I was just gonna say that.
The plot.
the head
Walter.
of Jagsonpal
Yeah.
thought that.
Wow.
That's sweet.
Yeah, it's Mr. Kochar who thought that, hey, for backward integration करे तो ऐसा तोप वाला
हाँ. I mean,
मेडिसिन ही बना देते हैं.
बेच ही रहे हैं तो बना भी लेते हैं.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think pretty old a company, and
Yeah.
I think it's impressive and not impressive at the same time, because despite being in existence for so long, पिछले साल का profit was only like 20 something crore. So you're wondering that what are these people doing since 1960s that they're making just about 20 crores in profit
Chemist
in
shop.
FY23.
Turn to company when?
74.
Mom,
Still
man,
lot.
let's go itself.
Yeah, 1 point. I think the quiz has started now.
Hey, this is part of research.
This
is not
is
Yeah.
research.
Arey?
But I
कोई
think
हमें
that's
सिर्फ
one-
one बोल देता.
yeah. There are going to
Sagar
be
is very competitive.
Also for the quiz, there are going to be 3 questions on the company and 1 question on Tarak Mehta. Just
Tarak Mehta.
putting it out there.
This is becoming a thing now.
That's good.
Yeah, so became a manufacturer of drugs in 1974, and specializes in usually drug makers are very difficult to they are spread all over the place. This one's very easy to identify. It specializes in women's health, primarily around gynecology and orthopedics, and 90% of the portfolio is in women's health, spread across gynecology and orthopedics.
Yeah.
So orthopedics doesn't account for male, only female का है क्या? Like
No,
90%
orthopedics
you're
is so they have something called a Indosep. No, what was that? Utsav, you remember?
Indo Cap SR.
Indocap SR. Yeah, so they have that drug which is for pain relief. I think it can be used by both.
Yeah. It's for both.
But some of their orthopedic medication, or at least the 5 famous ones among their top 5, they are related to like women's health centric issues. So it's osteoporosis because
Yeah.
of pregnancy related complications, or
It's a company
osteoporosis.
that targets women's health only, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, targets as in
overall.
targets to make it better, not like
Yeah,
targets
yeah,
Make it
to
better.
destroy.
No, like,
no, no.
Yeah, just
oh shit.
clarifying.
But like their customer
Yeah,
base is
that's their
targeted more
correct.
towards women.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what do you think is like the game changer that
Why
itna agar
Jagsonpal?
come
Huh.
no, no, not why Jagsonpal. Why itna come profit and like in the past 2 years only, I think they've seen like only like 35% growth. 2 year
Only.
CAGR. अरे मतलब in the past 2 years were good for them, right?
No,
And
so I
Actually,
think
before that, it was
so.
not.
That's why I think
I
it's
mean,
ironical a little bit, right? Because if you go to think about it, from becoming a chemist shop to actually owning a company and manufacturing facilities and
हाँ,
making a brand name for yourself, it's
Yeah.
quite a feat
task.
achieved, right? And it's commendable. But at the same time, like you've heard of so many other success stories which make you feel that a 20 crore profit is not that
Nothing.
great.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So I think while it has come from one stage to being a chemist shop to like a renowned manufacturer, it's probably now the 80th largest pharma company in India, which is ठीक है top 100 में तो आ रहा है ना,
Hmm.
but
मतलब
chemist का
कितने
दुकान था.
हैं pharma
So
companies in India?
difficult सवाल मत पूछ.
That was directed towards Utsav. Please, if you
It's
can.
No, I don't.
Oh,
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Ayush.
But they're jumping positions there also. They were 88th sometime back. Now they're 80th.
Oh,
There's
So
over
they are
3,000.
moving. Oh,
3,000 and
far,
10,500 facilities,
far.
production
wow. Yeah.
facilities.
Whoa, whoa.
Same link.
Googling is.
Oh,
Yeah, same Google search.
they just with the technical bits.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was one phase, obviously. But I think now the second phase is where a private equity investor saw interest in the company.
Yeah,
Private equity firms usually like think about what theme to invest in India with. Obviously, women's health is a pressing issue. It is something that requires addressing, and there's a problem to be solved. So it saw the opportunity that there is a company which is solely focused on this area, and which has products which are legit, which are doing well, which are ranked amongst the top three in whatever category they're selling in. So obviously there is massive potential in terms of just general awareness of women's health increasing in India and medication for it being available.
Yeah.
Um, so the next phase, or what's exciting about the company, is that the private equity investor owns 46% of the company. And the original family, which was there, Kochar family, they own about 26%. So this Lakshna.
अरे
Lakshya.
sorry यार.
इसका
अरे
खाना
the
पहले
thing
हंसता
is,
है,
ये
उसके
छोड़
बाद
दिया.
फोन बजता
नहीं
है.
नहीं खाने का नहीं रे. I just started laughing for no reason.
Thank you for
And
clarifying
every
that you weren't laughing about women's health.
no no no.
Yeah. New management comes in and it turns professional. So obviously way of operating improves, and then there's so Convergent also is a private equity player who's got a lot of experience in pharma. So they had acquired majority stake in Sequent before, Sequent Scientific,
I don't think it was
and
majority, right? So the
oh
Convergent
sorry, it was
stake
a
was
financial
like
stake. Yeah, yeah,
6%.
yeah.
So they got first they got this they invested in
Sequent.
Sequent. Now they invested over here and they got the MD also of Sequent.
Yeah.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
actually they left Sequent also, right?
Yeah.
Sequent
So
Yeah,
they
छोड़
they
के
were.
exited
They got.
Sequent and moved into
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
Okay.
They
So they
invested
just
in
had
the
like
guy,
a
not
investment
Sequent.
stake of 6%. They
Yeah.
entered in, I think, 2021. They exited in like 18 months and made like 2x of their investment and got out.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was pretty
They got
smooth.
the
So they know what
ex-MD
they're
to
up to. They know
be
what they're doing.
Jagsonpal camp, you know.
They're just hoeing around. That's what it's called.
Next
Yeah.
company they'll join, they'll again take the same MD and move him around.
I swear, man.
No, but I think this one seems to be like a more longer term play for Convergent because this is one of the
Yeah,
first
definitely.
companies that they've actually taken a
Obviously,
controlling
both of
bet
them shook.
on in
Yeah,
Who's the
history.
MD that they
46%.
are going around like that? Like,
Manish Gupta.
is he that good?
Manish Gupta.
Yeah. He's
Yeah.
been
Yeah,
around
yeah.
the pharma sector itself for like
25
25
years.
years. Yeah.
It's mad, bro.
He was
That's more
at,
than the age of everybody here on the podcast.
yeah.
No.
Except for one
Tejas is old,
Except
person.
for
huh?
Tejas.
Just except for
Tejas is old.
Tejas.
And you, Sagar.
You also,
Yeah.
Sagar.
Sagar
Don't
is
tell her.
I
Sagar is
I
a
think
teen, bro.
I think I could pass off as 25.
21.
अरे अरे अरे
Who?
You can pass off for what?
I think I could pass off as 25, no?
Yeah, yeah.
More
you
like
can pass off as
आराम से.
30 also भाई 30 30 पे
दाढ़ी देख भाई, 3 बच्चों का बाप लगता है.
you look like Arjun Kapoor भाई
Oh, shots fired, shots fired.
Personal attack,
What?
bro. Personal attack.
No,
भाई
no, I
बस
don't take it that
बच्चे
way.
उत्सव की तरह नहीं निकले तो अच्छा है
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Chal, but on that note, I have a quiz.
हाँ
Yeah,
चल
let's go.
sorted.
This is not, this is generic quiz, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Which is the longest, okay, what is the record holder for the longest one shot sequence in a TV show?
Sequence as in?
Oh,
वो
In a TV
sequence,
show?
I thought कुछ और पूछ रहे हो.
in a TV show or a movie.
In a
I
TV
didn't get
show,
your question.
single shot sequence. Single shot मतलब कोई कट नहीं, कुछ नहीं, कैमरा हिल रहा है, सब एक्शन हो रहा है, वो
Shit.
कट होता ही नहीं है, सीक्वेंस कट नहीं होता, one single shot, everything is shot in. So the longest is about I think 2 or 3 hours, but which show is it?
Is it a movie?
Hours?
Like, we're talking
TV show.
a TV show.
तारक
There was
मेहता
a
का
movie I was
उल्टा
watching,
चश्मा
not sure.
एपिसोड 2505
No. Wrong
hey,
answer.
come on man
What are your
Which
guesses?
show goes
It's a
on for
word,
like
huh?
2 hours, yeah?
Yeah, this seems like a Southeast Asian thing. They're crazy with their shots.
a Finding Nemo or
Do you have
something
an
or
answer or no?
No, I do
No.
not.
I know a movie which is like 2 hours
Guesses?
long, one shot.
It's a part of
अरे
a
अच्छा
famous
चलते
show, but उसका एक
चलो
episode
तो
ऐसा 2-3
genre
घंटे
ना
का था.
Is
the
it
genre
Indian
at
or
least?
what?
Oh, is it Mr.
Indian
Robot?
chal. No, Indian.
Acha, it's Indian. Is it CID?
Yeah.
बालिका
Yeah.
वधू
It's CID.
CID?
CID.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, 2 hours?
So, yeah.
yeah
Huh. So let's get to the crux of this. Two themes.
yes
One is a drug that they're really good at making, and that seems to be all the craze in women's health. And two is the new change in management and entry of the P. That seems to be an interesting
And Manish
turnaround
Gupta.
or just growth story for the company.
So the larger theme of this entire stock is the fact that there's this one drug called dihydrogesterone, which has become extremely popular now. And this is one of the first few, not the first few, probably the first gynecology drug which has entered the 100 crore monthly sale mark. Now, usually the ones entering this number are drugs associated with diabetes, जहाँ पे insulin
Heart
लेना है, या
disease
फिर
and all.
heart disease, yeah. So more common disorders. But this one in gynecology is the first, which number one signifies that there is a rising problem, and number two also signifies that there is rising awareness of the problem, and people are actually going for medication and getting themselves treated. And this drug, so there are two factors to it which sort of feed into why it's doing so well. So the earlier drug that was used, because there's a lack of the hormone, was to inject the hormone itself. So the hormone can either be injected or it comes in a gel which can be applied in the vagina, and the hormone levels stabilize or increase. However, that obviously leads to people being irregular at consuming the drug, because injection lene jana hai, ya fir it's whatever, the application is not the best or the easiest to do. So Abbott came up with a drug which was a tablet. So the same hormone, it went through a manufacturing process which was very complex. It did a lot of R&D. It got a patent on it, and that drug was in the form of a tablet, so it could be regularly consumed, and the complication was absent there. Also, because it was a tablet and it was a derivative of the hormone, the efficiency level of that drug is 15 to 20 times that of the base hormone itself. So lower doses and higher efficiency, which makes the drug a supreme, like a blockbuster in the market. So just last year, in fact, the sale of the molecule dihydrogesterone exceeded the sale of all medication which was directly actually injecting the hormone, progesterone. So earlier that was popular, but now dihydro's taken over. And in that dihydro, obviously Abbott was the leader, because the way it works in pharma is that whoever develops the drug has an advantage. They have the technology, they have the license to manufacture it, and they obviously price it very high because they have to recover all the R&D cost. Right? And
Right.
then a drug after a certain period of time becomes a generic, right, where
Right.
the manufacturing process is opened up to public. Other companies can manufacture it for cheap and sell it in the market. So in India in 2020, Mankind was the first company to make a generic of this drug. Mankind is
Okay.
Manforce condoms.
Yeah.
So they made this drug generic, and since then the competition has been insane. Like there are 30 players in the market right now fighting for the share, because this market itself is growing at like 35% every single year. So everybody wants a pie of that, and it will continue growing because the market of progesterone is still 50% or a little
Yeah.
Right.
lower. So that will go
Yeah.
down to zero-ish, and this one will go to 100, right? So you still know that और 5-10 साल तो इतना growth आएगा ही market में. So
Yeah.
everybody is
Okay.
getting into the market.
So how much time does this medicine take? Like how many years can it take
I
to
have a
make a
quiz. I have a
medicine generic
question.
from like only one company
Yeah,
to
that is a tough question. I don't know the regulation behind it, to be honest. I think the FDA has a certain timeline. I'm not entirely sure whether they stick to a timeline, or there is, if somebody else discovers the process, they can, if somebody else reverse engineers it. I don't know. I'm not too sure of
Yeah.
the
okay.
answer here.
But now, as you mentioned, like there's 30 players fighting for the
Yeah.
share for dydrogesterone. So what would maybe? So I think the only thing that would differentiate one from the other would be pricing.
Pricing
Not
and this
necessary.
also, no? Like people prefer certain uh, companies over each other.
No, so
So
one
you
No,
thing
no.
think
I
that there's
guess
Popularity
to
brand
also.
choose
preference?
Jagsonpal is because of the pricing only. So if you ever go to like any online pharmacy or whatever to just compare, now you see like
Yeah.
Jagsonpal always sells their products at like the most competitive price.
Cheapest.
So that has also helped the sales over the years.
So do you know the price of Abbott of the for this medicine as Jagsonpal?
For
What's up?
this Devatron medicine, like the peer average is
Yeah.
around 650, but then Jagsonpal sells it for then 550.
So, pricing is obviously one factor, but the other
Yeah.
factor that also comes into play is the availability of the medicine and how many doctors actually recommend it. Right. So, every pharma company has a very large relationship team with doctors, so that
Right.
they can explain the advantages of their brand over the others, and try to push it through prescriptions. So there is an aggressive campaign that every pharma company runs on these lines as well. And given the fact that Jackson Pal is a company which has specialized in gynecology so far, their network of gynecology or gynecologists would be very
Will
strong
be
already,
massive. Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
So that gives them an advantage in launching a new gynecology drug, because somebody new like Mankind, which was an OTC company selling condoms and other products, if they
Yeah.
have to establish a network from scratch, it's much more effort compared to a Jagsonpal. Of
Right.
course,
But then
Mankind
if
had the first mover advantage and a bigger brand, so it is the second largest selling right now.
Right.
Jagsonpal's product is sixth largest
six,
in India.
Okay.
But that
So
also, as you
when
but
was
then if
this
mentioned,
product
a
developed?
company comes,
Hmm?
ये जो product है, Abbott ने जो बनाया tablet. When was this developed? Like how long ago?
Abbott would have been, I don't know, 10 years maybe. Utsav, you know?
I think it was 5 years, I'm not sure. But then I know for a fact that this Divatron by Jagsonpal was launched in August 21.
नहीं. So
हाँ.
like 5 years ago उसने बनाया. तब से कितना growth है in this drug? And how long is Jackson Pearl doing this, like
Jackson Paul's
manufacturing
barely
this
two
drug?
years now. Barely 2 years.
yeah, 2 years.
August
Okay.
21, Jagsonpal.
हाँ, तो
It
अब
was
भी टू
zero
इयर्स
Because
हुए.
revenue
I
from
think they
that.
got the
Yeah.
go ahead in 2020 only, no, from Abbott. Like
They must have gotten the
No, no,
approval
no.
back then, but actual sales may have started in August 2021.
Yeah, in 2017
Yeah.
only. Yeah, yeah. 2017, Abbott started selling in India.
India,
oh,
but they must have formulated it here.
Worldwide.
oh.
हाँ,
But
but
we
वो
can
साथ में
take
ही
it
किया
as
होगा.
a
So
boy.
हाँ
what you can
यार.
assume is that 2017 में Abbott ने किया, and since then the progesterone market has been declining, dydro market has been increasing,
Yeah.
and then in 2020 when Mankind set up its plant, I think that would have accelerated. The price of dydro itself came down
Right.
because of competition or because of how many other players. So now finally the market, I think in April 2022, was at a flux where dydro sales exceeded progesterone sales for the first time ever. So the
Okay.
market has gone from obviously zero back in 2017 if Abbott launched it then to half the market right now, and possibly the full market at some point in time.
Yeah.
And I think
So there
even the
will never
US
be a
government
use
has banned
case.
progesterone, right?
Yeah.
Or they're thinking of banning because people are using it as a steroid. So since the 80s, I mean, people have been using progesterone as a steroid in like sports and whatever.
Yeah.
And then it was banned by the Olympics and stuff. So I think even the US now is thinking of banning progesterone completely.
But they would do it like they would make it a prescription based thing or something like that,
Yeah,
right? Or ban it
exactly.
in participation for
Oh,
sports. You can't ban.
That is not obviously done since like
Yeah.
the 80s only.
So they
you
can't
can't.
ban a medicine just because it can be used for that. वैसे तो use weed
No,
also
there's
for
so I
medication and
think
getting
they
things.
have the narcotics schedules that they publish, right? So for each
Yeah.
schedule,
Yeah,
there's a different whether you can get a prescription for it, whether that prescription is valid from a particular source, or whether it cannot be. So
right.
I think this class A, class B, class C, it must fall under some category there.
Yeah.
I asked कब हुआ है manufacture like when did they start this product because it takes 20 years for a patent to go from to go to generic. There's a timeline.
अच्छा, तो होगा पहले से किया होगा. I don't know. I'm
हाँ.
not
Either it
sure.
started 20 years ago, or this is a special case where they just had to expedite it because it was too
Yeah,
expensive
maybe.
for it to
Yeah.
be an OTC drug and that widespread in terms of usage.
Yeah.
What is the drug called? Like, uh,
Dihydrogesterone is the molecule, but the brand name under which Jagsonpal sells it is
Divatron.
Divatron and Prodetron.
Divatron. Yeah.
And there are two actually, Divatron and Prodet.
Right.
So since August 21, since its launch, this has so FY22 sales and FY23 sales for Jagsonpal of this particular drug.
Yeah.
FY it has gone 3x within
In
In
2 years.
this much time. Yeah, in 1 year.
1 year, not
So
2 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
did, yeah, yeah. So they did revenue from this drug was 13 crore in FY22, and it became 38 crore in FY23.
That is massive. And I'm assuming that's the only drug that's gone 3x in their pool of drugs.
In their pool
yeah.
of drugs, yeah, but the market itself, like for example, the market itself has like gone from 600 crores in FY22 to 1000 crores in FY23. So there's a massive tailwind in terms of how the market is progressing as
Yeah.
well.
That's impressive.
So in India, Mankind and who are the other players?
Other players,
I
Utham
think
For
was
this
there.
diotestrone,
also
dude, you've got like
Hmm.
20 plus players here. And at least
No,
for
no,
नहीं
no.
नहीं
30
now.
Top
biggest
players.
three,
players.
four were
Let's
there.
say
Na? Abbott,
top.
Mankind, then
Acha, Abbott.
Iris Life Science, and Cadila.
Zydus
Okay.
Cadila.
So those are the top
So
four.
growth for their company has been like also 3x for this product or what?
No, no. So I think the only one declining would be Abbott because of the pricing disadvantage. Baki for
Yeah.
the rest
Okay.
of them, it is a growing market.
Okay. Like, no, my question was, any
It
other
won't be,
company
na,
did
because
3x?
Jagsonpal will have the pricing advantage here, hence the
Yeah.
3xing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pricing plus distribution, right? So
Right,
both
yeah.
of
Yeah,
those
yeah.
Also,
advantages.
reach also. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in gynecology, they have like another like medicine which reduces like the risk of premature
Miscarriage.
birth. No,
No,
premature
miss.
birth ka risk. So whoever's already pregnant and if the baby's like being born in 37 weeks, there is a risk of like premature birth. So
Right.
this
Okay.
drug sort of keeps that it
At bay
prevents
or
it from
whatever.
happening.
Prevents it
Mm.
from happening.
And
Okay.
yeah, so then there is a drug for
Hydroxyprogesterone.
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 Then there is one which is for like birth control. There is one for like miscarriages. So all of their drugs are very like gynac oriented, and all these three that I mentioned right now, these are all drugs that they are either number one, number two, or number three at in terms of their brand
Production.
versus the market share in that particular space.
Yeah.
So they're the top brands in all these three.
So my
So
question is,
it's
So
safe to say
this.
that
it
Divatron, even though it's sixth right now, it can scale up.
Yeah, yeah.
very
I mean, the
quickly.
market is there for it. The
Yeah,
market is there. These guys are gaining market share. In
yeah,
FY22, they had a 2% market share. In FY23, that increased to a 4% market share. So they're clearly growing at double the market rate or triple
yeah,
the market rate and gaining market share. So that can continue further, especially because now there is new leadership and there is experience from a guy who's managed a much larger company with a
yeah.
much larger distribution network in India and outside India. So I think that expertise and sales training and procedures and processes and operational intensity, if you have to mimic in a much smaller company, that scaling up can happen much better because now they're equipped with at least the know-how to do it rather than a chemist owner doing it.
True.
I
No
think they
offense to
already
him, but
changed their entire this no their logistic system and all.
Yeah,
yeah, that
that's
Ayush is an
Yeah, yeah,
expert.
that they did.
so okay, cool. So yeah, so then
What's
that's
the
when we
view
come
on
But
top
to
of
anyway,
that?
the
so before that,
yeah,
establishing the fact that like two levers. One is that new management comes in, and
Yeah.
uh, second being that they're good at not only like their existing gynecology portfolio, but also at the new drug, which is a massive tailwind and which can for the next 2 3 years growth ka chinta hi nahi hai. These guys can easily grow for the next 2 3 years just because of this one tailwind.
right.
So that's not a worry in terms of growth. I think the management coming in and the new leadership coming in is more of an effort of one, obviously propelling growth into newer areas, which is not a worry. So not discussing too much of it. But second, in terms of margin improvement and operational excellence. So that's where your point of delivery models comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I have one question. You said it is a market leader in these three products. So why did not it have a good like profit numbers
It
even
had
in
good
spite of the
profits. It has good profits. It has been making mid-teen wala margins. So that has been good only. It's not that they're low in terms of profitability. It's just that because it is a company which is family owned and which is not scaled up larger, there were inefficiencies in the system which the private equity player is now getting rid of. They
Yeah.
are
okay.
making it more professional. So that's where the profitability will improve and become world class. It was not so far.
But I
That
think
Ayush
what
will.
Tejas meant was
Huh.
the amount of profit, I think.
Yeah, only 20 CR ka profit you said last
But
year.
it's not a
That's
अरे
only
generic
लेकिन
because they're
drug
market ही
also, na.
small.
छोटा है
It's a
ना.
very,
हाँ
it's a
वही
Very
very
small, very small.
It's a
this
niche
targeted
space
drug.
and the market is
Yeah,
small, right? So
20
exactly.
crores is small
I
in an arbitrary
I,
fashion. Like if we look at it as
हाँ,
an absolute.
अभी
yeah.
पैरासिटामोल बेच रहा होता तो उसका बहुत ज्यादा होता था.
Huh, but look at it this way, na. Like imagine like all these years and a gynecology drug is in the top 10 selling drugs for the first time.
Yeah.
Matlab,
Yeah,
look at the market itself being so nascent and now upcoming, then you can't expect a gynecology focused company to make that kind of a stride, right?
yeah,
Without having the
exactly.
market itself.
Correct.
So I think that's what the newer management intends to foray into, right? Like scale, basically scale and uh, operating efficiency overall.
Yeah.
Huh. So coming to that point now, the new PE entered, I think, last year in Feb. Convergent is the name of the fund or the name of the PE, and they hold about 43-44% of the company now, with 26% still being in possession of the previous promoters,
Family,
which is the Kochhar
Kocha
family.
family.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
cumulatively, they own about 75% of the company, and together they are going into this partnership which is going to stand the test of time and scale up into this gynecology uh, master piece of sorts.
So now the promoters have taken like a step backward from all the management and
So,
everything.
so I mean, like the previous board that existed, I think there's an entire refurbishment that has happened to that, where except for maybe one or two members, there's been an entirely new board of directors that have been appointed. So the entire management's new, and previously, the assumption was that prior to Convergent entering, most of them didn't have any niche experience with pharma companies or experience with actual scale when it comes to a pharma company. But that has changed now. So the new board is much more well versed because of their prior experience in the pharma sector,
The
or
private
just
experience.
the private experience.
They have what?
No,
Private
no.
experience.
Yeah. So they come with a skill set that is definitely going to help Jagsonpal in, oh my god, he is gone. So yeah. So new management, that's one thing that's happened. Plus, previously I think the MD CEO was from the Kochhar family.
Yeah.
He is now just chairman, and a new MD CEO has now been appointed, which is, as we had mentioned earlier, Manish Gupta.
Our man Manish.
Yes. It should have been Manish Dalle, no, instead of Mahesh Dalle.
Mahesh, yeah.
Mahesh Dalle.
I swear.
But yeah, this guy is definitely not a Dalle in any way,
I
shape, or
swear.
form, because he comes with insane experience in the pharma sector, and he's had like proper history to prove that his entry into a particular firm can make a material difference into how the company
And
operates.
here enters
Just
our
like
man,
He is our
just
Utsav.
like
Mahesh
how
Utsav
Utsav's
Dalle.
entry makes
Arey,
material.
Utsav Dalle.
Utsav Dalle.
Eh, Utsav Nalle actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, it's all jokes and all.
Huh. So
Ah,
So,
Manish, yes. So we keep focusing on his name intermittently during the podcast because he is of material importance. And why? Because his
bro,
previous company or previous position that he held, which was with Sequent
the
Scientific,
fuck?
which is an animal pharma company, that was quite a success story and a testament to his skill as an MD and CEO, especially with that pharma background that he holds. So he's done a couple of things, including kicking Laksh out of this podcast. Oh my god. Why
oh
can't
yeah,
anyone stick around in a sane fashion?
Acha.
Ayush.
No, but the 8 years he
Yeah.
was there, Manish Gupta, the
Arey,
revenue grew
Yeah.
from 400 to 1400 crores. So
Right.
it's a
In eight
big
years.
jump. Yeah.
That's a
that's
pretty
bad.
impressive feat. So 4xing of revenue going from net loss to net profit.
So what does
Yeah.
he
And
do? Like, what does he do as in what is his background? If do you all know?
he's just into pharma based
Oh, he
management.
was in
So he's
pharma
been
for a
in
long time.
multiple,
He headed,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, he headed some
25
companies
years of
in
experience.
Ireland, Germany also, in
So he was
pharma
part of
only.
this company called Walkhart that used to oversee pharma-based
Mokhart.
acquisition.
No,
Walkhart. I don't know
Wokhart's a
how you
pretty
say
well-known
it.
name.
Yeah.
Ayush have realized has a problem with O.
As
Um,
in?
he can't say
Oh, properly.
woke. He'll say walk.
Yeah,
He can't
that's where
say
somewhere my
he can't say
Mallunas has to come
Oppenheimer.
out.
He says Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer.
Oh,
Oppenheimer.
it's
Oppenheimer
Oppenheimer,
is
now
still
what?
fine.
Is
Yeah,
it
It is
Oppenheimer
Oppenheimer?
is the
Oppenheimer.
name. Because
Robert Oppenheimer.
But yeah, like the O thing comes up because like somewhere to my Mallunas has to filter into conversation.
No,
okay,
it's
bro.
Oppenheimer only, yeah.
Yeah,
Oppenheimer.
bhai.
हाँ
Yeah, it's
ए
a
भाई
Jewish
तेरा
name.
साउंड स्लो है क्या
Okay, so so basically Manish Gupta, lots of pharma experience, but
Yeah,
there's I think very logical things that they do, and that's what is
yeah.
repeating here as well. So apart from oh, we didn't speak about the distribution model. So I think that is so there are
That's
two three
second.
things that
That's
they've done.
second. That's next.
So there are two, three things that they've done
Bora.
within this company, right?
Yeah,
Which is like low hanging fruits, but obviously, like there is stuff there that you can churn out and improve profits immediately on, and that's what's happened over the last 1 year. So one is
yeah,
a change in their entire distribution model. Second is to get rid of assets that they didn't require or were inefficient, and the third is just working purely on financials. So probably you can
yeah.
take the first two, and then we'll come to the financials.
Yeah. So if we're talking about the distribution model, prior to the new management and the new found approach that they have with the company, this is how they used to function. Jagsonpal used to research the molecule. They used to make the medication. They used to ship out bulk stock of this medication to various storage units across the country, and from those storage units or depots they call it, these stockists or intermediaries between pharmacies and the company in themselves used to come in, buy buttloads of this medication off of these depots that Jagsonpal owns, and then sells them for a premium to the pharmacies, and then it reaches the end consumer. So it's like a 2-3 step process. Now, because A, managing, owning these depots is fairly cumbersome from a financial perspective, and B, dealing with these stockists who generally may or may not have a margin advantage. That to negate both of these aspects, they have switched almost entirely to something called a carry and forwarding agency model, which is something that most pharma companies already are into and is like a trend that's been happening for years. But Jagsonpal was late to it and have finally caught up. So what they're going to basically do henceforth, and has already begun almost immediately after the PE entered, was shutting down of these depots one by one. So there's like 13 or 15 of them across the country placed between states so that they can facilitate pharmacies in those areas, and completely outsource distribution, storage, sales, marketing, everything that is not manufacturing and R&D to these agencies. So they will basically take the stock from the company and carry forward the entire process after that for a bit of a margin at the end of the entire sale. So it's a more efficient
So it just
process.
becomes asset lighter model. You're
Exactly.
just moving it
Correct.
more from capex and operational heaviness to
Yeah.
focusing on what you're good at and
Correct.
getting rid of assets that you don't require because there are people doing it for a fee. So might as
Exactly.
well
Yeah.
move.
So that's basically what's been happening. And that seems to have worked out because I think there was almost immediate margin improvement year on year. If we look at the recent quarter, with about, I think, 600 basis points or so ka increase in operating margins, which is
That
great.
600 basis points is inclusive of ESOP
Yeah,
costs,
of
which are
course.
8 crores. So if you remove the ESOP cost, then the
Yeah,
operating margin is improved by about
yeah,
200 pips.
200.
Um, 8 crore का
Which
ESOP
seems
मिल
like
रहा
a
है,
fair,
obviously,
which
which
seems
is,
like a
yeah,
fair
sure.
improvement. Yeah. So that's when it comes to the distribution.
Also, the
What was
revenue will grow in the CNF model, right?
Yeah,
They'll
because the
have a better
CNF
revenue.
people have a better reach,
Yeah.
because these depots they would have had to do it themselves or set up newer depots if they had to
No,
reach a
also
newer
they'll have
market.
a like own advantage, right? They will have like better margin. उनको ज़्यादा पैसा मिलेगा if they sell more. So margins,
You mean there's more of an incentive for the
yeah, for
agencies
the
to sell?
depots, CNF model, yeah,
Yeah, sure, but
because
the thing
it
with
is
this,
based on the revenue.
yeah, it
So
is,
from my understanding, it is revenue based
it
margins.
is, yeah,
अगर
and it's
100 करोड़
definitely a
का करो तो
higher,
उसमें
yeah, and it's definitely a higher margin than the previous model of the stockist taking a premium on the product. But the thing with the
right,
CNF model is that it's not that they're only selling Jagsonpal ka medication. Each
right,
CNF agency handles at least six pharma companies on average in India, and they have
yeah,
a
that is fine. But
network.
if
Yeah,
you have the better reach, like
yeah,
Jagsonpal has a better pharma, like a gynecologist and all network,
yeah.
so that will be
So
the
that's where it
plus.
comes to what Sagar mentioned earlier, where it's the doctor reach that will also matter here again, which
Yeah.
is going to remain
So
unchanged, of
medicine
course.
pharmacy में तो पहुंचा देंगे, but it
Huh.
has to be pushed from the prescription side as well,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I
Right.
think both of these things have to improve
Work in tandem.
simultaneously.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's one step in the right direction that they didn't seem to do earlier because, of course, no one on the board had enough expertise in the field to think of such a change.
But then why didn't they look at other companies? Like,
In what
Other
sense?
companies as well.
like if other pharma companies were doing this, like they had already adopted this model.
Yeah,
But
I
probably it
mean,
must be also preference and stuff, right? Like so many
yeah,
like delivery, I mean, so many manufacturing companies own warehouses. It's a decision of whether you want to own or rent. So many
yeah.
IT companies own their campuses. So many of them don't own campuses. So many retail stores like DMart will own their
Own stores,
whatever
correct.
stores. Reliance will not. So I think that's a matter of preference and
Yeah.
management, right? And
And in this
See,
case,
maybe
it
they
Now
just
seems
the
just
like,
didn't
management
know,
has
like,
changed because of that.
yeah, yeah. See, maybe they just know कि ऐसा भी हो सकता है, like you can just move your entire
वो तो
work or
नहीं
something.
होगा.
No, no, as in, मतलब, they couldn't have, just have that expertise ki, like ऐसा changes करना and all that. And that is like something that has come, this CNF model has come after the
possible,
new owners
but
have
it's
come in.
not like they had
Yeah, yeah.
completely negated the CNF model. For example, they did have two agencies or networks set up, one in Gujarat and one in
Okay.
like Assam or Arunachal Pradesh, I think, somewhere in the northeast. So it's not like they didn't use it. but they just prefer the depot model. And I think, as it said, like Sagar said, it's a preference based thing here because they seem to be very cash heavy. So they had it to their
But also,
disposal
it's like a
to,
whole entrepreneur thing, right? Like any
yeah,
business owner, when they've built something and they've put in a lot of
They want
effort,
to
and
keep
they're
it
like,
all for themselves.
yeah,
yeah, and they're like,
Yeah.
मेहनत किया है तो हम खुद ही करेंगे, 2% का margin बचेगा, but they don't look at the overall aspect of like how much cash you'll save, etc., which is
correct.
what a professional, independent view does to you.
Yeah.
And that's what's kind of reflecting in their financials, because they're able to now cut down on so much flab. Their margins have improved clearly within 1.5 years, 2 years, right? And this entire model, plus they sold off like their one of their old inefficient plants, one of their offices in Delhi, they sold that off. So all that also they've done, and net result is, and improve the working capital efficiency as well. So net result is that because of going asset light, because of improving working capital, and because of selling off these assets which are not required, they have been able to increase their cash balance from 69 crores, I think. You have the numbers? No, I haven't.
Yeah, 69
Yeah,
crores
69
last
crores to
year.
126 crores last quarter.
Yeah,
So that's within one
Double
year and 4 months. They have literally doubled their cash balance,
balance.
which is humongous. And that's, take a cash balance is one, but the ROC itself has gone from 38% to 64% in 1 year.
which is
And
insane. Yeah,
so that's massive. And just because of these three
Right.
changes, ज़्यादा कुछ तोप चीज़ किया नहीं है. They've just done like these 2 3 changes, and that's what they've cleared out. So net
That's
net,
nice.
I think the story is that Dydro, obviously, pet naming it now, but Dydro is going to take care of revenue for the next 2 3 years, and obviously the new management will come up with some strategy to further scale up revenue, further get into new areas or whatever, utilize even the 120 crores cash to acquire something and grow revenue, and margins obviously will. Are stabilizing or getting higher because of improving product mix, as well as these changes that they're taking into
So
place.
so like this company might will have like two three plays in their book basically. One is though their medicine that's gonna support them a lot.
Yeah.
Their drug because they have like a majority stake or like a good chunk of market share in that. Plus all of these changes also basically the management changes
yeah,
which will play out well.
So improvement in revenue because of obviously sectoral tailwinds and being in the right place at the
Yeah.
right time. Plus new areas to scale in, plus existing leadership in places, plus profitability improvement because of new management, and consequent impact on both improvement in cash position as well as return ratios. So all in all,
So
good place to be in.
are they doing capex? Like, do they have the capacity to manufacture the quantity like that will be
they
needed,
seem to,
required?
because otherwise, why would they sell off an inefficient plant? And B, they seem to have other plans for the cash balance that they seem to have accumulated. Because
So
with
they are planning to do capex as well.
Are
not
they
capex,
Organic
utilizing
plus
their
inorganic both.
capacity?
They can acquire as well,
so
and that's what
yeah,
happened in
so the
Oh,
Sequent as well,
inorganic is
right? They
what is going to
acquired a
be
lot
Right.
of other.
exactly, yeah. So
Okay.
that's why we mentioned Manish earlier, because he has this kida of doing inorganic acquisitions with cash balance, which have worked out well. Even if whether
Yeah.
it's like something to add on value to a product or just as an investment. So either
but
Yeah.
way,
So adding capex or buying, doing this inorganic
yeah,
investment,
yeah.
either way, they will be adding capacity
more
addition.
capacity.
Like,
No. So now capacity is one, or they could just be
hmm.
adding on to their fleet in terms of
Was there
acquiring an entire
capacity
company.
utilization at this point?
Huh.
There aren't any
Hey,
numbers
tough
to
question,
suggest
mat
all
use.
that.
Okay, this guy was very.
Valuations, financials.
हट,
Let's get to that.
No
इतना ही है,
valuations.
खत्म है, और कुछ नहीं करने
अच्छा,
का है
खत्म
इसमें.
है. You sure?
Sagar did this in like few hours, bro. Like,
और कुछ नहीं करना है इस पे अभी. Valuation
You
valuation
सब
check.
you must have done ना सब 7 दिन का valuation क्या है?
They, Baba, my
4 रुपया.
valuation.
Times.
Talk about
7
it.
दिन का उसका वैल्यूएशन 4 रुपया.
I swear.